Okay, let's just jump right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're locking in on day 7 of the source material for The Unshakable You. And listen, we're taking a really intense, uncompromising look at how you take back absolute control during a career transition. Because if you're navigating a job loss, a major pivot, or just some massive shift in your professional life, you probably feel a bit like you've lost the steering wheel, right? But the reality is, your true power is just sitting there, waiting to be activated. We aren't talking about tweaking your resume today, and we're definitely not doing interview prep. We're talking about something way more fundamental: auditing your inner circle. So let's look at exactly what the text tells us to do.
I mean, just look at the sheer aggression of this statement from the text. Fire the people who look at you with tilted heads and soft eyes. You've got to let that sink in for a second, right? Because it's a massive pattern interrupt. Usually, when we're going through a rough patch, society kind of trains us to seek out comfort. We look for the people who will, pat us on the back and offer that gentle, soft sympathy. But the source text is commanding you to immediately reject that. Literally fire those voices. That gentle sympathy, it's actually suffocating you. It's completely counterproductive to building that resilient, unshakable mindset you absolutely need right now.
So the whole crucial point here is that you've got to audit your mental environment. Think of your mind like a highly secured corporate database. Right now, in the middle of a career transition, your mind is in this incredibly sensitive, vulnerable state. You're recalibrating your entire life's direction. And because of that extreme sensitivity, the absolute last thing you can afford to let into your ecosystem is the toxic radiation of other people's pity. You have to be ruthless about it. You need to actively block out voices that drain your energy. Yes, even if those voices belong to super well-meaning friends or family members. Because at the end of the day, your mental environment dictates your physical execution.
Okay, moving into section 1. The poison of pity. A slow-acting toxin. The source text gives us a really strict clinical definition of this emotion. It defines pity as a slow-acting poison disguised as kindness that falsely implies you are broken. I mean, really look at those words. Disguised as kindness. When someone offers you pity, they are slapping a label right on you. It labels you as a victim who needs to be saved. But here's the thing, you're absolutely not a victim, and you definitely do not need saving. You're a highly capable professional. Pity just chips away at your sovereign independence and essentially tricks you into believing you're fragile.
Let's break this down a bit further. So when a friend or an ex-colleague looks at you and says something like, "Oh man, I am so sorry, the market is just brutal right now. You should probably just lower your expectations and take whatever you can get." Well, what are they actually doing there? Newsflash, they are not helping you. What they're doing is projecting their own fear, their own smallness, and their own limitations straight onto your situation. They're looking at your temporary setback and basically reacting with their own anxieties. Ultimately, their pity is just an open invitation for you to come sit with them in the valley of defeat. And you need to decline that invitation immediately. Return to sender.
Which brings us to section 2, the accountability framework, focus over sympathy.
This text sets up a really stark contrast here. On the one hand, you have sympathy. As we just saw, it projects fear, implies you're somehow broken, and drags you right down into that valley of defeat. It's totally paralyzing. But on the other hand, you have focus. Focus demands excellence. It constantly reminds you of your immense capacity and your track record of solving complex problems. It takes your current situation and frames it not as some tragic event, but as a pressure test. And this right here is exactly what you need to demand from the people around you right now. You need empowering, high expectation demands.
So what does that actually sound like in the real world? It sounds like this. Good. This is the exact pressure test required to unleash your next level. What is the strategy today? That right there is the exact standard of response the text says you must require from anyone you allow into your inner circle. When you call up a mentor or a friend and tell them you got rejected from a role, you do not want them to go, oh, I'm so sorry. Nope. You want them to look you dead in the eye and say, good. What is the strategy today? You absolutely need people who look at the obstacle and immediately demand your best execution.
All right, let's get into section 3, setting a new standard, tactical protocols.
The text lays out these really uncompromising steps to make this happen. Step 1, go engage your network. Step 2, swap pity for high expectations. Now, fair warning, your friends might look at you like you've suddenly grown a second head when you tell them you are completely done with sympathy, but do it anyway. Step 3, demand accountability, not comfort. Explicitly tell them you want them to hold you to the absolute highest standard possible. And step 4, push to train harder, think bigger, and execute cleaner. What you're doing here is actively rewriting the rules of engagement with your social circle. You are retraining them on how to treat you as a high-value asset.
And finally, Section 4. Protect your mental fortress, the manifesto. Okay, here is the absolute non-negotiable boundary. If they cannot speak to your strength, they are no longer allowed to speak to your situation. I mean, seriously, read that again. Make it your phone wallpaper if you have to. If a person in your life cannot recognize the undeniable capability, the intellect, and the resilience you bring to the table, well, their access to your transition journey is permanently revoked. End of story. No exceptions.
Because the text presents a very stark choice. You can either surround yourself exclusively with giants, people who demand your excellence, or you can choose to walk completely alone. Notice what's missing from those options? Yeah, keeping weak, pity-filled people around you isn't on the menu. Solitary strength, just walking completely alone with your own focused self-belief, is always, always better than being dragged down by well-meaning but weak companions. So it's simple. You either walk with giants or you walk alone.
These are the final manifesto points the text wants you to lock in. Number 1, you are transitioning. You are simply moving your immense talent from a place that couldn't handle it to a platform that can. Number 2, you are evolving. The comfort zone was making you soft, and this pressure test, it's making you lethal. And finally, number 3, you are never defeated. Protect your mental fortress at all costs. You've got to keep these truths front and center in your mind every single day.
So everything we've unpacked today leads us right to this final, pretty provocative question. Who are the giants in your circle? You need to identify them today. Cut out the pity, fiercely protect your fortress, and whatever you do, keep hunting. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.